Hello everybody. I would do something about the reflection in my glasses, but I can't because it's actually sunlight rather than light or me having my iPod brightness up too much. It is early afternoon on Thursday the something of April, and I need to film this, do the sampling and get it uploaded because it's the dram that I need to get done for today, otherwise I will be falling behind. So I need to knock someone on the head because I'm going somewhere this afternoon that will then be dealt with at the next review, which hopefully if I get time I'll do tonight with a review of uploading tomorrow, and should include some special news. So this one is another donation from, oh, that reflection is really going to bug me, isn't it? Right, I'll try and keep my head that way. I think it's the windows and we haven't got any curtains, so it's going to be a bit of a problem in summer, isn't it? Never mind. This is a donation from a guy called James Goggins, who is the portfolio ambassador for a company called Maverick Drinks. Their logo is here, independently minded spirits. They were founded in 2013 and they're essentially an offshoot of Master of Malt, the online retailer. And Maverick Drinks are essentially kind of an importer and exporter of brands. They're quite quirky, and they look for, it's almost like a spirit version of craft beers in terms of kind of unusual releases and single casks and bits and pieces like that. Now, I met James at the Newcastle Whisky Festival, really nice guy. We got in touch and he sent me very kindly 10 samples. Now, Master of Malt were also responsible for these Drinks by the Dram. Where's the camera gone? There it is. Drinks by the Dram, which if you've not come across this, is a fantastic idea. It's really, really good. They basically they break down bottles and sell 3cl samples essentially for you to purchase. So it means that you can try whiskies that if you can't afford the bottle or you're not 100% certain whether it would be your kind of thing, you can just pay kind of 3, 4, 5, 10 quid depending on how much the full size bottle is. And try it and see if you like it, kind of try before you buy, or try something that you otherwise would never have had ordinarily. So this one, the first one of the 10 that he sent, is called Paul John, and it's an Indian single malt. Now, I was very, very fortunate to get in touch with a guy called Krish Kumar, whose picture is here. I hope he doesn't mind me using it. I managed to get hold of him on Facebook and asked him a few questions about this in advance of doing this tasting. So in this one I have actually done research, believe it or not, and if the information is incorrect then it's all him, it's nothing to do with me. Yeah. Right, so this is Maverick Drinks' release. They have a kind of line called the Boutique Whiskey Company, and this is what the bottle looks like as a full size. So quite funky. All the labels of the boutique whiskey companies have got in the pictures that are on there kind of reference certain aspects of the whiskey or things that you need to look out for. And you might notice on that picture that it involves people with angel's wings. And because of the heat and humidity of the climate in India, Indian whiskey maturing in casks tend to lose a lot more through the angel's share. In Scotland it's about 2% a year. In India it's kind of almost 8 to 10%, so they're losing quite a lot a year. Then there's an argument, and they use this sort of in their marketing as well, in that because of the heat they're losing more through the cask, but it's actually interacting with the wood and the cask itself. You technically maturing at a faster rate, so 3 years in maturation in Scotland is almost the equivalent of 10 in India. Whether you believe that or not is entirely up to you. It does. The couple of Indians that I've come across, even though they've been very, very young, they have had some good flavour in. So there's certainly an argument for it. It's not a hard and fast rule. I'm not going to take it as gospel. So this particular one is the batch 1. So I believe they've done a batch 2 as well. And I need to take a quick sniff of it, yes, because at the time Krish was saying, I'm not sure if it's the peated or the unpeated one that we did. This is the peated one. I can, pick it up on the nose. So Paul John was released as a single malt. Now it's made in, it's distilled in Goa, which is here on the map relative to the rest of India. and it's a place called, the distillery is called John Distilleries, and that's the name of the company, which was founded by a guy called Paul John in 1992. Now, Indian whiskey is very big, it's very popular, there's a huge market for it, but single malt, it's blends predominantly, and single malt never really, there was never really any interest in it. It was all about blends, and it was Indian whiskey, as I kind of covered when I talked about the bagpiper, was a lot of it technically can't be called whiskey, or legally can't be called whiskey outside of India and that area once it goes into Europe, because it's distilled using molasses. But in 2012, Paul John released a single malt because they realised actually there is a demand. You know, Scotch is huge, malt whiskey is huge. Why not? Let's give it a go. So it was released in 2012, and the kind of, I suppose, standard bottling of what you call Paul John looks like this. Really, really nicely packaged. Obviously, this one is a single cask. I think there's only 148 bottles of it in existence. So this is, you know, pretty rare stuff, and I'm very fortunate to have it. And to be honest, it would be easier for me to get this than it probably would be for the standard Paul John. So I'm taking this as the Paul John representation in my challenge. It's about 90 quid, I think Master of Malt was selling it for. So, you know, it's not cheap, but it's a single cask, I think, as well. So, you know, 148 bottles, there's not a great deal of it. It's a 6-year-old. So if you bear in mind that it's a 6-year-old and it's from a single cask, and they've only managed to get 148 bottles from it, that is a fair amount that's been lost through the cask, or dropped or spilt, and I'm hoping it's the former and not that they've just spilt a load over the floor and gone, oh, we've only got 150 bottles left, or dropped a pallet. Jesus, can you imagine that being a nightmare? Anyway, so Chris informs me that it is double distilled, and they use 6-row barley as opposed to 2-row barley. Now, he told me that via messenger, and I went, all right, I have no idea what 6-row barley is. And I didn't know what. You might be saying, what the hell is 6-row barley? I didn't know until about half an hour ago, where I've just looked at it. Essentially, barley, if you look at a stalk of barley from the top, so you've got the centre of the stalk, 2-row barley are where you've got the 2 kernels that go like that. In fact, I'm going to put a picture up because it's probably easier. It explains it a lot quicker than me nattering on. So 2-row barley is literally kernels either side, and they tend to be plumper and bigger, but they've got less protein in. Whereas 6-row barley, you can see, is 6 rows around the centre of the stalk. They tend to be smaller, but they tend to have more protein in. Now, I've done a bit of reading up on it, believe it or not, and it's, in terms of brewing, American uses 6-row, whereas Scotland tends to use 2-row, and Scotch tends to use 2. In terms of brewing beer, there's not a huge amount of difference. It's not going to have a massive impact, but because there's more proteins, it gives you a slightly richer spirit, but it's almost negligible. It's kind of a selling point, and it's interesting, and it can differentiate different types of beers and different types of whiskey. But if you made a whiskey with 2-row and you made a whiskey with 6-row, and you did exactly the same process and just did the barley differently, I don't think there would be a massive amount of difference. Not hugely, not unless you really delved into it scientifically and spent hours over it, and I'm going to do neither. I'm not spending hours on it because I've got going a bit, and I'm not scientific, as you can probably tell. So so it's a 6-year-old. It uses 6-row barley. It's double distilled rather than triple distilled. The peated barley, and I think it's the peated barley rather than bring the peat across. So they're bringing peated barley across from Islay. So you know, they're using decent quality peated barley. If it is peated barley they're using, and hopefully if Chris watches this and maybe can clarify in the comments as to, because I can't remember what he wrote. In fact, I'm going to have a look because it's going to bug me now otherwise, is whether, because I don't want to misrepresent him, because he was really, really kind to actually give me this information. It's peated in India with, 6-row Indian barley, peated in India with Scottish peat from Islay. So they're actually bringing peat across, not peated barley. There we go. Nearly put my foot in it then. So they're bringing peat across to give it that smokiness when they're actually in preparation for distilling. And it's also matured in bourbon casks. Now, you could possibly see, particularly in this natural light, there is it's a decent colour, and it's, I think it's first fill. He said fill bourbon casks. So it's either refill bourbon casks or possibly first fill. And looking at that colour, I'd hazard a guess at probably first fill, because that's a really deep, rich colour. And it's also 55.5% alcohol, which I'm guessing is cask strength as well. Non-chill filtered, no colour, nothing added, nothing like that, none of that rubbish as well. So there is a really nice smokiness on the nose as well. It's and it's a good balance of slightly medicinal, slightly kind of bonfirey, slightly barbecue as well, particularly with the bourbon cask maturation. It's giving it a sweetness, so it's almost like barbecued steaks. That sort of juicy barbecue steak where you get that smokiness but also the meatiness there as well. Yeah, lovely nose. More smoke coming through on that one as well. And a freshness as well. Yeah, really clear menthol. Oh, it's proper. Ooh, cleared my nose out. Yeah, there's a lovely lightness to it as well. That's a really good nose. Ooh, that's really unusual. There's smokiness to it, and it's a bonfire smoke. The menthol kicks in, and then there's a really strong underlying sweetness of caramelized demerara sugar. It's almost a little unbalanced because it's kind of like a game of two halves, but a bit like when I had the White Horse, and that was more honey. It was like honey and smoke, and the two didn't really combine. This actually combines a lot better. And to be perfectly honest, I was thinking about whether I need to add water to it, but that sweetness that's there, and it's a real lovely caramel fudgy sweetness in there, masks the alcohol percentage. It really does. I'm not going to add water to this because I genuinely don't think it needs it. I think adding water to it would probably lose some of those flavours that are there. 55.5%. That's really, really good neat. That's a lovely whiskey, that. It's married really well in terms of the smokiness and the toffiness, but it's like slightly burnt caramel. Not really, really burnt caramel, where it's a little bit acrid, but caramel that's just slightly charred, you know, kind of on the top of a creme brulee, that sort of caramel. That is bloody good. I really, really like that. Now, Maltman Mike told me that he'd had this, and he said it was weird, and I can kind of understand why he says it's weird, because it's a really unusual mixture of quite intense sweetness and not massively intense smokiness, but definite smokiness and slightly minty and kind of chocolatey as well. Me, love it. I think it's a really, really good combination. It marries really well. That is an absolute cracker. That's really, really good. And for 90 quid, probably quite a chunk of that price is the fact there's only 148 bottles of it. To be honest, it's not that bad. Because you're not going to have an Indian whiskey every day, well, unless you live in India and around there, but speaking from the UK, you're not going to have an Indian whiskey every day. And that is fantastic. There's bags of flavour in there. Smokiness means that it's going on, but that sweetness still goes. I can still taste that sweetness now. It's excellent, excellent whiskey. And I'm always impressed with whiskies with a higher alcohol percentage, you know, cask strength, that sort of level, you know, 55 plus, 50, 55 plus, that doesn't need water, because to me that shows that there is enough flavour and there's enough complexity and enough care that's been taken over the distilling process and the maturation process, that at cask strength the alcohol supports the flavours in the whiskey rather than overpowering it. So I'm always chuffed when I can find a whiskey that is that high alcohol percentage and doesn't need the water to then bring it back down and kind of, you know, reduce it down to a level where it is then tolerable to drink. Abelard Abinard was another one that always stuck with me. It's one of my favourites because it was really high alcohol percentage, didn't need water, and that doesn't. I think that's absolutely brilliant. Really, really good stuff. Not many bottles of it, so grab it while you can, because it's fantastic. If you like Islays, if you like sweet whiskies, give that a go. It's fantastic. Really, really good stuff. Thanks to Chris for all the help that he gave me in terms of the information. Thanks to James Goggins at Maverick Drinks for sending me the sample. I've got another 9 to go. Really appreciate that. And yes, hopefully on the next review, which I will be doing tonight and uploading tomorrow, I should have some news to share with you. Cryptic. Ooh. Right, it's 15 minutes. I've been too long. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.